Welcome to Stick at Night. I'm your freeholder, Anthony L. Romano, representing the great cities of Hoboken and Jersey City and all the wonderful residents we have here in Hudson County. It's my continuing wish to let the people of this county, especially Hoboken and Jersey City, know of all the new things that are happening. And in Hoboken, we have with us today someone who has founded the milesquarechurch, the Reverend, Pastor Matt Lytikainen. Did I say it right?
Yes, nailed it.
Absolutely. Pastor or Reverend?
Pastor's fantastic.
Pastor's fine. So Matt, tell us a little about yourself.
Sure. As I've gathered from you, thank you also for having me on your show today. I really appreciate that. I'm from Grand Rapids, Michigan, so I did not grow up a New Jersey native, to my shame. But I love Jersey. Came here 2 years ago. Because I grew up in Grand Rapids, Michigan. I went to undergrad in Wisconsin at a small Lutheran school called Concordia, and then went straight on to seminary. So I kind of hopped around the Midwest for most of my formational years. Seminaries in St. Louis, Concordia Seminary, and spent some time out in Omaha doing an internship at a larger church called King of Kings, and then came back to seminary, and I've always been interested in doing what I've been doing, which is starting a new church called church planting. That's the lingo that we use.
How'd you wind up to Hoboken? Just went like this on the map?
Well, not too far from that, honestly. What ended up happening was I was very interested. They have some assessments and so on, because this isn't necessarily for everybody to go out and do something like this, starting up a brand new church out of nothing. So went through some assessments right when I got to seminary, and it was a red, yellow, and green light scale. And you can probably infer from what that means, and I was red lighted. So I said, well, maybe this isn't what God has for me. But as time went on, I got some experience, went to that internship, as I mentioned, and then I got tapped by a local pastor in the St. Louis area. He's like, you want to explore planting a church? And it was kind of, where's this coming from? Because I was under the impression that this wasn't for me, but one thing leads to another. I do some soul searching and some praying, and I felt I want a church plant. I kind of felt like Moses, who's at the burning bush, and he's like, I can't, God, don't send me, send somebody else, anybody but me. And he's like, I'm sending you, bud. So I kind of felt like that.
Like your bishop that's sending you?
Yeah. So the way our seminary and our denomination works is we are kind of, we interview with various churches throughout the United States, and then eventually, as the first call or placement, you are just kind of sent, more or less.
And Hoboken was on the map?
And Hoboken was on the map. Yeah, there was a pastor in Ridgewood, New Jersey, who had planted a church in Knoxville. He was called to pastor a church in Ridgewood called Bethlehem. And then he said, I want to train you to be a church planter. So I said, that sounds fantastic. And they had identified Hoboken.
Now, Hoboken obviously is, as is Hudson County, very diversified religiously. And Hoboken and Jersey City are a lot too. We have our synagogues, our Catholic churches, our Islamic places of worship. Then in Hoboken, we have also Grace Church. Is Grace Church similar to your church?
Yeah, I think there's a lot of similarities that could be drawn on the face. And like a Catholic Mass, probably more accustomed to like organ or like a traditional liturgy. Hoboken Grace obviously isn't that. They have, they have band, and it's very, the production value is different, we would say. And we're similar to that. We don't have as high a production value as they might, but we have a band up there. My wife plays the keys, she sings. Has put out like a little album as well, songwriter, singer.
Now, where are you located in Hoboken?
We are located at the Bowtie Cinema. So, as you probably are aware, real estate's kind of difficult to come by. And we were never coming in with the vision of actually buying property, but we had looked around and rented.
You rent, and your services are on Sunday?
They are on Sunday. And we actually had a 6-month preview season, what it's called, to kind of get our sea legs, as it were, and then give an opportunity for the public to kind of experience what we're doing. Now, you
mentioned, are you an offshoot of the Lutheran Church?
Yes, that is correct. So,
which in Hoboken, I think, is All Saints, something along that line?
That's Episcopal.
Episcopal,
and then there is another Lutheran church body, actually different denomination Lutheran than we are. So, broadly speaking, Catholic, Protestant, under the umbrella Protestant Lutheran, and then under that umbrella, we are the Lutheran Church Missouri Synod. So that's our denomination.
How was the turnout, the enrollment of parishioners?
It's been good. So we've had, over the course of our 6 services, we had an average of about 39 in attendance. kind of varying up and down as church services are wont to do. So it's kind of a good experience for us to kind of get our experience and how we, because we have to set up everything, at different or more established churches, there's the altar, everything's set. The chairs are there, everything. But
so you have
for
an
us, we had to
altar
bring
too,
in, yeah, we celebrate the sacrament, so there's actually quite close similarity between Catholicism and Lutheranism on that.
Right.
So we celebrate the sacrament, but we have to bring everything in. So stage, lighting, music, soundboard, everything has to be brought in, and then we pack it back up, and put it away. So it's a pretty intense.
So do you live in Hoboken too?
Yes, I do live in Hoboken. Actually, just coincidentally, it wasn't planned this way, but I live 2 blocks or so away from the theater, at 15th Mill above Orale Mexican Kitchen. Good place to eat.
Now, how did you, by word of mouth, how did you get people to know about your church?
One of the basic things that I started doing is my coach had said, just start meeting 15 people a week. Just have that bar be set. And so, sure enough, I did. And I just counted it a win, whether I was, got to know someone's name or that name led to an email and a phone number. I said, hey, I'm out there. I'm meeting people that I didn't know before, and just kind of basic networking and following up, and then asking, well, do you know anybody that I could talk to and have a cup of coffee with or go get a beer with? That sort of thing.
Well, it's kind of, in my mind, I say Hoboken is a mile square. Mm-hmm. Okay, there's only so many people, and especially during this time of year, most people go away on weekends.
Yeah.
And so it's hard. Is there enough of people in Hoboken for all these different churches? Now, I know we're down to one synagogue, which is very crowded, very well attended. We have like 6 Catholic churches. Mm-hmm. You have numerous Protestant churches. Is there enough in the pool of people to help your church to grow and survive?
Yeah, that's a great question. I remember having a conversation with somebody who was a social media marketer, and she said, well, who's your target audience? And I said, actually, it's the people who aren't attending church, or who have attended church in the past but have, kind of counted themselves out. And so I actually have targeted, according to some marketing research, there is a contingent of people called nuns, N-O-N-E-S, and they're people that have no religious affiliation in any case. They're not attending church, and they happen to, that's who I want to reach out and target and invite them in.
Well, a lot of questions for you when we come back from our commercial break. Especially I'd like you to think about how you see yourself involved in other areas of the city, what causes the shelter or any other philanthropic or charitable causes. I know I've seen you at the Hoboken Rotary, and we'll get into that. I'm your freeholder, Anthony Romano. After this commercial break, we'll be back with Reverend Matt to tell us about his wonderful Mile Square Church.
We have to be able to police ourselves because we don't want anybody to tarnish our badge.
When internal affairs complaints are not handled properly, the public may believe that most officers commit crimes, when in fact that's not true. Most officers are professional.
If complaints aren't taken properly and the community that we serve doesn't have a trust in the police department, I mean, there has to be legitimacy. If the community doesn't trust the police, how could we effectively serve them? And by having a really comprehensive internal affairs unit that handles the complaints properly and people have trust in the system, it enables us to do our entire job as a police department much better.
We need the community as much as they need us. So that citizen that has lost trust in the community could be a very important witness for us tomorrow.
Voting by mail has never been easier. Just follow these steps to ensure your vote will be counted. Open your envelope. You will find your certificate, return envelope, and official ballot. When casting your ballot, use only a pencil, black, or blue ink, not red. Completely fill in the oval to the right of each selection. When writing in, do not repeat a name printed on the ballot. If torn or damaged, your vote will not be counted. Fold your ballot and place it in the pocket of the certificate before sealing it with the adhesive strip. Do not detach the strip and paper from the certificate. Fill out the required information on the certificate and don't forget to sign. If you are not mailing or delivering your ballot in person, make sure both you and the bearer of the ballot sign your name and address on the certificate and return envelope. After that, just place it in the mailbox and your vote will be counted. For more information, you can visit our website at www.hudsoncountyclerk.org or www.hudson
Hudson TMA reminds you that before you ride, you should perform the ABC Quick Check. Here's how to do
You
it.
don't want your bike to fail you. So get in the habit of doing the ABC Quick Check before you ride. A is for air. Check that your tires are properly inflated. They should be pumped up to the inflation rating printed on the tire. Many bicycle pumps come with a pressure gauge, so you can make sure they're properly inflated. Low pressure tires can easily puncture. B is for brakes. Check that your brakes are working. Your brake lever shouldn't come closer than a thumb's width to the handlebar. Your wheel should spin freely when the brakes are off. C is for the cranks, chain, and cassette. Grab both crank arms like this and wiggle them to make sure they aren't loose. Spin the pedals and make sure the chain runs smoothly through the gears. Quick means making sure your wheels are on tight if you have quick release wheels. The wheels should be snug in the dropouts and the quick release lever fastened tight.
Welcome back to Stick at Night. Let's continue this interesting discussion with the Reverend Pastor of Mile Square Church, Reverend Pastor Matt. Okay, so we were talking about how have you delved into the Hoboken fabric and the Hudson County fabric? Do you just reach out to Hoboken residents, or are you interested in any other cities? Do you go after Jersey City people? How is that going?
Yeah, I think a hard target would be Hoboken. I think Hoboken is, that's where we were called to. It's the place I've gradually fallen in love with more and more, appreciate it as a city, as a neighborhood, as a community. So I really want to reach out to people here, but certainly as we kind of radiate out to Union City, to Jersey City, the Heights, those are places I'm willing to reach out to. Yeah.
Are you involved in any of, I know I seen you at the Hoboken Rotary last night, you're a Rotary member, you started to delve into different organizations, and are you involved with any of the causes? Tell us.
Yeah. We are involved in some causes, and the reason being, I think there's a lot of churches, and one thing I seek to have a vision of a church that is missionally involved in the city, because there's a lot of churches people might even know their brick and mortar location, or maybe not, but I think part of that is just because it's a very hands-off, no one knows who they are because they're not around in the city doing work. And so I wanted to say, let's be a church that wants to invest time and energy into places that need it. So we've done small partnerships, like financial fundraising on a small scale with organizations like True Mentors. One organization that we've really partnered with quite closely has been the Hoboken Housing Authority. And I was just invited in by Danny Perez, who is the Director of Resident Services. And I said, how can a church like us, how can we partner and kind of collaborate together to make a difference that's positive for your community? And he said, well, there was one organization, he just actually had gotten fresh, it turned out, of having a conversation with the Christopher Columbus Gardens on 9th and Jefferson in town. And the residents there, they're like, nothing ever happens here. No one's ever creating these community events for us. And so he's like, we will provide that. And then we meet. And so maybe it's God ordained, I don't know. But we said, yeah, we can definitely step in. So we've been doing monthly community events at the Christopher Columbus Gardens.
Do you work hand in hand, say, for example, with Grace Church? Because they do a lot with the Housing Authority also. Yeah,
we actually have not done anything hand in hand with Grace Church. Not that we would be opposed by any means. I think there are
No, I was just asking because I know like with the Catholic churches, they band together, so there's no repetition of services on certain things. Do you wear a collar so people would know?
Our tradition definitely does have those who wear the collar. I think as you're no stranger to it, and I think many people are no stranger to it, I think people are, or the whole organized religion can turn people off right away. And obviously I mentioned earlier that I want to connect with people who have been burned by faith, burned by the organized church. And so to that end, I just said, you know what, it's really not worth it. There might be like a couple smiles shared with me if I wear the collar because they might think I'm a Catholic priest or something of that nature. But how many more people are just going to feel that kind of bring up something from their past that's going to
That's an interesting thought, Rev. And I know people that do feel that way.
Yeah.
So do you involve with the Hoboken shelter at all?
We have served there a couple times and got a group together early on when we started to go serve. I think primarily we've kind of put our weight behind the Housing Authority projects that we do. But I really want to encourage anyone who's part of Mile Square to, if they have the time, it's every single night, right? So
do you have a lot of residents of the Housing Authority joining your church?
What's been really cool is, we would have served there regardless of whether or not anyone had joined. It wasn't a tit for tat sort of
No, I understand.
angle, which people can interpret things like that to be that way. But we just said, we want to serve. We want to come and show up. And incidentally, it came to pass that a couple people did involve themselves and have involved themselves with, there's a Bible study we do at the Hoboken Pizzeria on 8th and Jefferson. We had a gentleman who came, he helped us with our setup, getting the stage together, everything we were doing our services on a monthly basis. So it's been a blessing. We've been able to bless them and we've been blessed back.
Now, is this your full-time profession or do you work another job?
This is my full-time thing.
So you're funded by your main ministry located in...
Correct, yeah. I do kind of, it's probably like a 30-70 split where I do some fundraising, offerings and tithes are collected, and I go out to various churches in our church body, and I tell them about what we're doing and
This is around the United States.
Hard target is in New Jersey, but I do send out mailers and stuff to people who are outside of the New Jersey, people I've connected with over my years of ministry training.
How long are you in Hoboken now? You said about a year?
2 years.
2 years.
2 years in July. Yeah.
Okay. Right.
So.
And until I met you and I see your visibility at the festival.
That's right.
That's how I met you. And I think it's important that, as you said, people know about you, because some people are disenchanted with the traditional churches, whatever that may be. Do you reach out also to other religious denominations? For example, the interfaith service that we always have in Hoboken. Are you going to be part of that?
Yeah, I am part of the Clergy Coalition, and I really love the efforts that are there. We've been talking about more ways in which we can collaborate in spaces where we really can kind of bring our full energy from our denominations and congregations across even religious barriers, and say, how can we, as churches, as religious organizations, make a tangible difference for justice in our city? And obviously the Hoboken Shelter arose because of the Clergy Coalition back in the day. And so we have our attention and sight set on things like that. Certainly that's where I would lean toward the most and celebrate that the most.
What is your next goal?
Our next goal is, as I mentioned, we have these services. Over the past 6 months we did them, and then we are now preparing over the next quarter to launch weekly services, Lord willing, at the Bowtie Cinema.
How's that going to go logistically? Isn't that kind of tough?
It is logistically pretty challenging, but I'm broadening my my purview. We need quite a few volunteers to make things come together. Got to get some roadies out there to set things up.
Are you hoping to someday have your own location?
Hey, if we were given that gift, that would be great. But we're kind of like, on that, when it comes to that sort of thing, we're just kind of rolling with the punches. We'll do, if God gives us that sort of thing, we will definitely leap at it. Until He does, we're gonna go out, take it a step at a time.
Yeah, and it is difficult to be on the move. Does Grace Church have a home?
As far as I know, no. They have been renting.
Like in Hoboken High, and they go different places too. So you're both in that same kind of situation. And traditionally, Hoboken's had so many churches that it's a choice for all the different residents. And as I said before, I hope that you're welcome and open to, I think would help you open to Jersey City, Union City, and there are neighboring and sister cities. And there's probably a pool of people too looking to find the faith that they feel most comfortable with. I'm your freeholder, Anthony Romano. We're going to continue this discussion after the commercial break with Pastor Matt from the Mile Square Church of Hoboken.
Hudson TMA reminds you that a helmet can only protect your head if you wear it. Take a tip from Elizabeth and Xander.
So just think of your helmet as part of your gear. You don't see a soccer player without shin guards.
You don't see a basketball player without shoes.
You don't ride your bike without your helmet. It's part of the gear.
Let's take a look at proper helmet fit. The size of a helmet is very important. It should fit comfortably without rocking from side to side. The helmet should fit level on your head and low on the forehead, no more than 1 or 2 finger widths above the eyebrow. Adjust the lengths of the straps so that the buckle is centered under the chin. Side straps should be adjusted so that they form a V shape under and slightly in front of the ears. Lock the slider if possible. Buckle the chin strap and tighten it until snug. No more than 1 or 2 fingers should fit under the strap. Lastly, make sure the helmet is secure and doesn't rock back and forth. If a big yawn doesn't pull the helmet down on your head, tighten the chin strap.
Welcome back to Stick at Night, and with us today we have the wonderful pastor of the Mile Square Church, Matt. Continue with our discussion, what we were saying about where you see your church going.
Yeah, you know, when we got here, we were. I was looking at the demographics, and I mentioned already the nuns. It's like a third of the population of Hoboken, people who don't have any religious affiliation whatsoever. And I just kind of found myself asking, why? Why is that? Because that certainly wasn't my experience. People who've been, burned by faith, burned by by churches.
And not necessarily, it's just people that were, as you say, burned.
Yeah.
There's people that are just, without being burned, trying to find the faith that they find solace and comfort in. I just want to emphasize that point, especially now with some of the ramifications and the things the collateral damage that's happened in the Catholic Church. Mm-hmm. So it is for a lot of those people that feel, traumatized. So,
Definitely.
But you have to go after a bigger pool, because there's so many young people that don't want to go the traditional way, maybe that they were raised with their parents. They want to find some solace and comfort in a different faith. For whatever faults the Roman Catholic Church has, I am not going to leave the Roman Catholic Church. So I find my solace in my faith as a Catholic, and I'm sure other people in all their own. But I respect and enjoy learning about every other faith. One of the advantages of attending a Jesuit schools was that we learned about other faiths, and I have a very close relationship with Rabbi Rob Scheinberg in Hoboken, who's excellent, and with my imams in my mosque up on Kennedy Boulevard. And I think it's important that people do understand the different faiths, and I'm intrigued and want to learn about with you. And you explained to me how it's an offshoot of the Lutheran Church, which it all comes from basically the break-off from the Catholic Church, the Anglican. And it's an interesting history, but to me, I'm going to hopefully attend one of your services to learn more about you.
I'd be delighted by that.
So go ahead, continue what you were telling us.
Yeah, so we formulated this mission was to be a compelling connection to Christ in the Christian community. So reaching out to people who maybe not necessarily were burned like you were saying, but who are looking for something that can answer their real questions. And so we're trying to build this community where it's safe to ask questions and seek the purpose that God has given you. And I've noticed that there is just, if there's any absence I want to address, I just envision a church that addresses these things. First is thin theology. I think there's a lot of churches out there that are afraid to delve into deeper questions because maybe they don't have the personal resources of either their theology or their current intellectual know-how. They're not willing to dig deep. And I want to say, I want to have a robust theology. I want to say, look, there's a lot of answers out there that can speak to your life situation, can speak to things like why is there evil in the world, why is there suffering, why does God allow this stuff? There are real answers to those things, and they're not just pad answers. They're not these trite things that are passed off. There are something deeper, and I want to encourage people to ask those kinds of questions. And so I mentioned already we want to create a safe place to ask those questions, and safety I think is a really big place. I think people who are looking for a faith community want to feel safe to kind of be who they are, not expect to put on airs or kind of I want to create a place where you can come as you are. You don't have to put on airs. You don't have to pretend like you're someone you're not.
Well, I think, I see with some young people too, well, if there really is a God, why do we have injustice? Why do we have sickness? I mean, that's, you can't blame God for that, And I think it's important, as I said, going through a little something personally myself, and my faith is going to help me get through it. And I think you've come across to me as a very spiritual person. I think that's important, a sincere person. Because there's always, the controversies that I remember when I was younger. There was the Reverend Falwell and some of the other reverends, and then there was financial improprieties that were going on. So I guess that turned a lot of people off too. And then you see now you have on TV on the morning on the one channel you have different faiths. So it's almost like you're in a competitive market in a way, and you have to, by your sheer will of your personality, build your congregation.
Yeah, and we're just inviting, and like I said, we want to be missionally involved, and I think that spins out broader. I think people are looking for community, just plain and simple community, regardless whether it's religious or not. People are seeking after that, and so we've kind of created things, just especially as of late, that are more casual get-togethers. Coming up on the 3rd, we have just a little gathering at City Bistro on the rooftop. Nothing. We're not doing a Bible study or anything like that. We're just getting some beers and have some.
Send it
apps,
to me. I'll try to attend.
That'd be great. So, and we went kayaking last Saturday at the Hoboken Cove Community Boathouse, which is great. A little gem.
The county has partnered up with some grant for the kayak too in the boathouse.
Which is great. It's a great little spot, and and highlighting those things. If we as an organization can do something as simple as highlight something that is a really good thing, we'd love to do that, and that's why one of the reasons I did pursue.
Now you mentioned you're married. Is your wife from Michigan also?
Yes, my wife and I have been married for 4 years. We met in high school, kind of high school sweethearts. We have. When we actually landed here in Hoboken, we found out we were pregnant. So,
congratulations!
Thank you. And we have a 13-month-old daughter named Naomi. And it's just, there's a lot of new city, new church, relatively new marriage, new parenting. So there's a lot new, but God's been with us through it all.
Now, have you introduced yourself to the mayor and other elected officials in Hoboken, the council people? And
Yes, I had the privilege to meet with Mayor Ravi Bala. It was a nice meeting. Have had, as Hoboken's a small town, have had some run-ins with, at ShopRite or what have you, with random elected officials. This has been great. I love that aspect of Hoboken. Ruben Ramos, talked with him, and certainly others as I've, in my journeys, my travels, I've talked with many elected officials.
Well, I think it's important, as you said, that if you're going to become part of the community, that you, for example, with the Rotary, I was impressed to see you there last night with the Rotary. Because Rotary is a giving organization, and we have the Chamber of Commerce. I think that you should meet Rich Makowitz is the head of Hoboken's Chamber of Commerce, Maria Nieves of the Hudson County Chamber of Commerce, of which Hoboken is actually a part of under the umbrella, and the different festivals we have. Jersey City has the big July 4th fireworks celebration coming, so there's a lot going on. Well, I want to thank you for coming tonight, and any last second comment you'd like to make?
No, hey, I just really appreciate it. I didn't know if I mentioned this, but we're launching weekly services on October 6th. So if you are wanting to check us out, please do. And our website's milesquare.church.
Good, and that'll be at the address again for our audience?
milesquare.church on any web browser. So
no, but what's the address of the cinema?
Bowtie Cinema, that's 409-415 14th Street in Hoboken.
Well, for those of you out there, there's an open invitation to the Mile Square Church to see what's happening at their location and with their congregation. I'm your freeholder, Anthony Romano, representing Hoboken and Jersey City. Thank you for listening in, and hopefully we see you soon. Reverend Matt, good luck, and take care, and thank you for coming on the show.
Thank you very much.